Good morning, everybody. Hot mic. Good morning. Good morning. If you would start finding your way to make down the center aisle and look for a seat. All right. I'm going to ask everybody to scoot in close this morning. We've got lots of seats down front. Come on down. If you want to sit by a friend, we're all friends here, so you'll be sitting by a friend. All right, I'll give you guys a little bit more time. If you didn't see, or if you came in and you just like to get your seat early, there are cupcakes in the back because it's our birthday. So please, enjoy yourself a cupcake. If you're gluten-free, sugar-free, there's lots of gluten and there's lots of sugar. So please watch out. All right, for those of you that have been with us from the beginning, you'll notice a few familiar products on the back table. It's pretty interesting. Tulsa people has come out, they're doing a story on some of the successes behind 1 million cups. If you've never been here before, welcome. My name's Tim. And we have Baron here who's partying it up over there. If you guys didn't get one of those bouncy ball things, you should. Yes. That's your demonstration. If you want to ask a question today, that's how you get Baron's attention. Just like that. We've got a couple of community organizers around. You'll see them. We do this. This is one of our favorite things to do every week. And what we do at 1 Million Cups Tulsa, if you've never been here, we have 2 startups. They present what they work on. And then from there we do 20 minutes of Q&A with them and with you. And so the whole point of that is that we get to learn from their experiences, whether they're succeeding or failing or where they are, some of their struggles. And then we also learn about what's going on locally in Tulsa. And then lastly, the goal is to accelerate what they're doing in the marketplace. So if you know a good connection, those sorts of things, we like to give those and help the entrepreneurs today. Now when we were scheming about, okay, we're having our birthday party, 1 Million Cups we launched a year ago. We were the 18th, 19th city, and now it's in 65 cities across the nation. And I think they're in Canada and Puerto Rico now, which is cool. So what happens is when a Tulsa entrepreneur speaks, they can then go to any other city in the 1 Million Cups network and present at that city. So it becomes kind of an entrance point into new cities and new markets for them, which is really exciting. So when we were scheming about what we wanted to do for the birthday, we thought, how cool would it be if we could merge entrepreneurialism and art? Because a lot of times artists are some of the best entrepreneurs that you would meet, yet they, like Baron, but you would not necessarily, they wouldn't categorize themselves as entrepreneurs. So we went out and we found a couple entrepreneurs that are artists that, I don't know if they would agree that they're entrepreneurs, but they at least agreed to come share their story with us today on what they do, what they've created, and the teams that they've built. So first up, we have Lisa from Garden Deva. Really cool, she's come up with her own custom sculptures and products, prototyped them herself, and then turned it into now a successful business, even with a retail location. And she's here in Tulsa. So give it up, warm welcome to Lisa with Garden Deva.
Raise a hand if anybody knows about Deva. So some of you, that's awesome. I have not actually a startup. I've been in business for 19 years. I started my business because I didn't like my job, and I liked making art. And I definitely knew that I was an entrepreneur. I mean, I knew that it was work, and I had kind of that right brain, left brain. How can I market my product? And that's why, 19 years later, I'm able to stand up here and tell you that I still do what I love to do. I started up a business and I'm continuing it pretty successfully. It is not like I went into the oil and gas business, but I do what I love. I have 7 employees. Being an entrepreneur, it seems like I always, you're the last to get paid, you're the one that's hustling. I was actually at work this morning at 6 in the morning. I'm a welder, that's what I did here. And that's why I'm dressed like this for this meeting. I didn't really think, oh, I should put on something fancy. I was just at work working and then called them, are you coming? But essentially, this is the type of product that I do. I do sculptures, I do whimsical, as well as functional art, which means that I will make you a gay or if you're an architect, I want to make you a beautiful metal banister or art element in your building or house, water features. I've done projects as large as $50,000, and I do stuff all day long as small as $5. And I do think, I do have that aspect of business mind as well as artistic mind. A lot of times artists have a hard time moving a lot of product, and for me it's always been. I started when I was 30 years old, and I had 3 small children and had just gotten a divorce. And pretty much my motivation was to feed my kids and to have a better life. Which is probably what most of your motivation is, either about yourself or about your kids. And that totally, pushed me into going out and getting some business cards and some little things. The thing that I loved, I realized I could make a living at it. And I worked 2 jobs. I worked in a family business in a manufacturing capacity. I sold printing equipment on an international basis. I kept doing that job, and I started my business. And so I was pretty much working all the time, and my kids literally grew up doing this. My son, who's now 32, who's an amazing business entrepreneur himself, sold my very first piece of sculpture when he was 12. We were at an art show, and nobody liked what I was doing. They were like, couldn't really figure out why you would buy a piece of metal that was rusty also, because I really worked with rusty metal when I started, and a lot of kind of petroglyphs and Native American, because that's where I was at artistically. And people honestly told me that it was some of the ugliest stuff they'd ever seen. I heard some harsh stuff. And I thought it was cool, and I just kept going, but I couldn't sell it. I couldn't figure that out, and all my sons were there hanging out at this little festival. Actually, they have it every year out in South Tulsa. It's a little, out at some barn on South Louisville. Anyway, we were all hanging out. I went to the bathroom, and when I came back, he had $75 cash, and I'm like, what exactly happened, word by word? What did you two say? And, he is to this day my best salesman. But if I need to move some work. But so that's kind of how it all got started, and it progressed from there. And people started buying my work. I had amazing clients right off the bat that loved me, and within a few years, I was in Better Homes and Gardens selling about $30,000 a month. Went from $75, couldn't believe I made it, to a whole bunch real quick. And so that's what was able to prompt me to quit the job I hated, to move into a building and start producing right away. And then it's just progressed from there into, like I said, I have 7 employees. One of them has been with me since the very beginning. He's actually 2 of them, one's retired, which comes in. They were just people that I knew, that I loved, and so that's been awesome to be able to do my own business and work with people that every morning I'm happy to see. And I always feel sad for all those people that work jobs that hate the people they work with. That's never been my reality. So today, I've done all sorts of projects. I was commissioned to do the artwork that's on a U.S. postal stamp. It's a menorah that was on a Hanukkah stamp. I recently was on an edition of Treehouse Masters. If you guys watched that, my work was me and Pete made a treehouse together. You guys familiar with that? So I've done some amazing big projects. I've got a piece of art that's at Philbrook, and I'm very fortunate to keep doing what I love to do. This week I'm preparing for a big festival that we're having at my studio. It's the 15th year I've had an art event, and I brought some invitations. You're all invited. And I also am done with my time telling my story, so whatever questions you have.
Okay, so this is the time where we get into questions, and feel free, you can ask questions about the business and the history, where they're going, offer, commentary, connections, things like that. The purpose
nothing too personal.
Yeah, nothing too personal. Be nice. But the purpose is to educate, encourage, so keep that in mind with your questions. So get my attention, I'm going to kind of keep a mental queue of questions. So we'll start here in the back.
Good morning. Your 32-year-old son, bestseller, is now my chair of typers. So,
nice. Yes, he's awesome.
Congratulations. On a note about the magazine feature, was that something that you pursued, or was that luck of the draw?
Nothing that I told you has ever happened to me I pursued. Unfortunately, it all just came to me. I always felt like it was divine intervention because that's the way I think. No, there was somebody that knew somebody that was an editor for Better Homes that had seen my work at one of those little herb festivals and called me.
Over here.
Moving from the first $75 sale to what you were doing just a few years later, did you change your product to be any different, or?
Of course. I mean, I definitely, as an artist, I think in any craft or probably anything, you get better as you do it. So, I mean, when I look back on some of those first pieces, I'm surprised I made any money. But I was so passionate about it, I loved it. But yeah, definitely it's a refining process, and it's become more and more refined. And sometimes, as an artist, that's really can be damaging. So I have to like mess it all up again and start over because it's not necessarily just a business. I have to come to that creative place.
Okay, we've got one here in the center up front.
So I'm both an entrepreneur and an artist, and I struggle all the time with the left brain, right brain. Now I'm a stained glass artist, and I do specialize in lamps, but I've had my art in galleries for the past couple of years, the Main Gallery, the Color Gallery, the Living Arts in Tulsa, and it just seems like I can't get that break, that kind of falling over into maybe the popular side where you can start getting more contacts. 19 years ago, what did you do to kind of get past that break and start getting more exposure than just the local scene?
Well, I had that magazine article, and then I also travel. I do art festivals. I probably do about 20 a year. So the Mayfest and the Blue Dome Festival, I do those all around the country. So, I also really went out there and worked it. I mean, I didn't cold call galleries, but it's just short of that. Sometimes I would call galleries in that town and say, I'm visiting, I'd like to show you my work, and I did everything I could. And it is, sometimes as an artist you might need some support on that.
Okay, we've got a question back here in the back.
So as an artist, you have what you want to create. I assume it's the same case for you. You have what you want to create and how you want to express yourself, but you also have fans or customers who have expectations of what you're going to create. How do you balance between how you want to express yourself and the expectations that your audience has for what they want to see you create?
If I'm doing a large project for somebody, I will do the sketch for them, and they're going to know pretty much what they're going to get. And then also I create work and put it, I have a gallery that's open Monday through Saturday, so people just come in and buy stuff that I make too, so it's kind of both.
Okay, I got a question up here front.
I'm curious about, for like a gallery, you mentioned you've got 7 other team members with you and all that. Are you just constantly coming up with new inventory to sell, or are there any patterns that you come up with that you kind of have other people repeat for you?
No, I have a CNC machine, so a lot of times I will, all of these little flowers that are on here were cut with that machine. I do a drawing and it produces hundreds of them. This little vase I made myself, so that it is a combination of sort of machine and handmade, and able to keep up with the production. I have about 250 boutique stores around the country that sell my work. So, and I have a line of products that they can, shop from, and I change that every year.
Okay, at the back. Give me a second to get back there.
I was curious, bridging the gap between an artist and a business owner. I'm not an artist, but I'm assuming that can be a struggle for some people as far as employees, payroll, tax planning, things like that. And I'm a big advocate for your son Daniel too, and I think maybe he does some business stuff for you.
Yeah, and that's what you do, is you hire people or you have children that are smarter than you are. So yeah, it definitely requires, I always, and this was just something that I learned from my mother, who was also an entrepreneur, and she probably learned from her father, who was also an entrepreneur, is that you hire people that are smarter than you. Don't try to do your own taxes, don't try to do your own, and that's always just been ingrained in my brain and probably in my DNA. So yeah, I didn't just smoke a joint and hope for the best. I mean, that's not how it's, you could have that kind of success. We've all seen these amazing artists that sell for millions of dollars that, obviously smoked a lot of joints, but that's not the normal, process when you're combining both those brains.
Okay, we'll have some more follow-up on that.
Yeah.
Actually, I think you kind of answered one of the questions I was going to ask you, which is, what would you do, or what would you recommend us doing, or any kind of advice, the things that you wouldn't do, that you've learned in your 19 years?
That's a good question. You know, the biggest thing, I've learned from every mistake, so it's kind of difficult when I'm not hanging on to them. But I can say that there are things that I have made for other people that I personally was not happy with. It's how they wanted it, and I made it how they wanted it. And it probably would have been better in hindsight just to not take their $325, whatever they wanted, because I see it, and I just want to run over it with my car. That's the only thing, is I kind of compromise some integrity to make, you know, sometimes you have to do that, but, you know.
Okay, got another question over here.
I have two totally different questions.
Okay.
The first one is, looking back 19 years to that first transaction to what you're looking at now, you're seeing all the harvest from all that hard work.
Absolutely.
Are you, as an entrepreneur, are you satisfied? Are you just trying to work on all the processes now, or what are you reaching for? What's there's still got to be goals ahead. So what goals are you reaching for? That's the first question. Okay.
Well, I'll just tell you, I do sometimes just sit in the space that I've created and go, man, I have gotten there. But I really haven't. It's a constant. I'm always thinking, oh, I forgot to do that, and I used to do this, and I wish I did that. So there's never a resting period, except like really early in the morning, and I'll sit down and go, well, this is good. And I go, oh, I forgot, I got to do this, and no. But I can say that the other day some people came in that were artists from Oklahoma City that had heard about me, and the guy said to me, which I took as such a great compliment, you can tell that you've honed your skills. I mean, the way you've got everything laid out and presented is really like you know what you're doing. And that's the benefit of the 19 years. I mean, I certainly didn't start out like that. It was more like a card table and a box, and it's developed, and a lot of it is how you present your product. How you not only just market it, but how do I package it, and how do I lay it on this table so people know exactly what I'm trying to sell them.
Sure. And the second question, polar opposite from that, just as a framework, frame of reference. So the piece that you have in front of you, how long would something like that take to produce, and what would the cost be on something like
this?
that?
This is about, I'd say about 2 hours worth of time, and I've got it at $145. So one of the things I do as a business person, and that a lot of artists don't do, is I figure out how long it takes. And I figure that I should make $55 an hour, or whatever it is. Sometimes it's $125. If I go much more than that, I pretty much am not selling it. And then I figure out, okay, I've got some material. I mean, I kind of do a whole mathematical thing to figure out the price of this. I mean, it could be sold for $600. It's pretty beautiful. It could be sold for $75. But I came at that price based on how much time and the cost of materials.
Okay, up front here.
So I actually have two questions. First of all, I was curious what your son said to sell the product.
He said he didn't do anything. I mean, he is very charming for the people that know him. So, I don't know what he said he didn't do anything. He's just like, she came up, she said, I'll take it. I said, thank you. He looked a little scared, but he is charming.
And then my second question was, what was kind of the point or the project that you had worked on, and you were just like, I guess I've gotten there.
Well, it was where I was at with that thought. Was this morning when I was looking in my gallery. I was sitting there, I had my cup of coffee, I sat down on a bench, and I just looked around, and it's incredibly pristine and perfect right now because I'm getting ready for a big event, and I just felt good about it. Everything was in order. There's a lot of projects that I'm grateful for, like the stamp. I've worked with George Kaiser Family Foundation and done some stuff for the children's Head Starts that he does that just makes my heart open, because I know that how it's benefiting the kids that use the space. Stuff like that also happens, but.
Okay, another question up front here.
So art's it's a personal project, and you have your personal touches. So how big do you think that you can get before you'll feel like it's not personal, like the pieces that you make? Like how big could a company like this scale before it becomes mass-produced stuff?
Right. Well, that, I still have my hand in it, and I'm not sure what point that would be. What I keep thinking is, because I'm getting older, and I do big work, and I haul it all over. You can tell how I'm dressed here today. I'm usually dirty, and you know, at this point, I have to say, because I'm in front of a group of entrepreneurs, that I often think I would rather start making money than art. And so there's that point where you cross over and you turn it over to somebody that says, this is a great design, let's sell it to Sundance Catalog and this guy, and you make thousands of them, and I'm in the Bahamas, you know, getting my check. So I don't know where it is. I haven't gotten there yet, but that's where, when it becomes that, then I think your mindset has to be, how can this be really profitable? Since you're selling your soul, basically.
Okay, we have one last question, and we ask this to all of our presenters. What can we as a community do to help you and help you all grow and get to that next level?
Well, you know, I'd love for you guys to come visit my studio. I have some brochures here that gives my address. That would be what I would recommend. Come down and see me and tell your friends and go from there. Thank you guys very much. It was great questions, and I was very happy to see you.
All right, thank you, Lisa. If you came in a little late and didn't know where you were, this is 1 Million Cups, by the way, and it's our birthday party. See some people with hats. I've got a little party horn that I'm really excited about using after the meeting is over. We're really glad that you're here, and I see a lot of new faces here this morning, which is great. We do this every week. It's not always artists. Usually it's a startup business who's trying to scale and develop their product or their service. And so we will be here again next week, 9 o'clock, here at Foolish Things. And if you want to get updates on what we're doing every week and the links for the announcements that I'm about to tell you about, then you can send us an email at tulsa@1millioncups.com. You can make it funny if you want to, and then we might be more likely to remember you after that. But if you just want to put a newsletter, that's also okay, and you'll still get the same information. In, what is this, 3 weeks? 3 weeks from now is Global Entrepreneurship Week. And there's Startup Cup that's happening, the finals of Startup Cup is happening that week, and other things that we don't know about yet, but be on the lookout because it's going to be cool. Dave the Man Berlin, right here in the green hat, he's a 1 Million Cups regular, has been here almost every week since a year ago. And he has a program called Reps for Vets where you go work out at Veterans Park again? And the proceeds of the event go to, what do they go to?
Tulsa Veterans Treatment Corps.
Tulsa Veterans Treatment Corps. So it's $25, it's on November 8th. And we'll send out a link because he has this really cool video that he made from the first one, which you'll want to see. Do we have, let's see, we have cupcakes. I don't know if you guys noticed the cupcakes in the back. There are cupcakes in the back. And I want to bring up Jessica, who is going to tell us a little bit more about where those cupcakes came from.
We are Lauren A. Cupcakes. My name is Jessica, and Kim, right here in the front, is my business partner. I'm also my sister-in-law. We've been around for about 1.5 years making cupcakes, and to be frank, we've started out of our homes, and we have finally gotten to a point where we want to grow. And so we're working on a cupcake trailer. I sent over some slides. I don't know if they made it.
They're here.
Okay.
Oh, here they are.
Yeah, here they are. That's our name. It's a little tough for y'all, but we went with the idea like Kleenex had nothing to do with tissues, but it was Kleenex, and everybody remembered Kleenex. So we are Lauren A. It's my middle name and Kim's middle name, Laura and Renee. And we are working on a cupcake trailer. And so we decided to kind of venture that route. We know that food trucks are a big deal. We decided that that would be less upfront capital. So we are doing that for right now. We are still very small. The truck is obviously in progress. I don't know if y'all can see that. It's pretty little up here, but the trailer is an old vintage style trailer. No one can identify it. So if you can identify it, awesome, congratulations. But it's being transformed to the original shape, just converted into a food truck. So we're hoping to start selling out of the food truck next summer, if not sooner. And if you all want to follow us as we journey through this, you can go to, we have an Instagram account and a Facebook account, and we're working on a Twitter account as well. For right now, we are looking for a commissary kitchen. We're working through our licensing, but if you have any connections to anyone who has kitchen space to rent or offer, by all means, grab one of us afterwards. Otherwise, enjoy the cupcakes.
Oh, and one more addendum to Garden Diva's presentation. We at 1 Million Cups cannot condone the smoking of a joint, just for the record. Just wanted to make that clear. But guys, it's our birthday. That's exciting. Thanks for being here. We've made it 1 year. Let's make it another. And our second presenter is Scott Taylor with Colorpop. He is an artist who comes here regularly to learn from other entrepreneurs, and it's time to hear about what he's doing. So give it up for Scott.
Awesome. How are you guys doing? All right, so my name is Scott Taylor. My company is called Colorpop Art and Design. Basically, we are an art company with our hand in a lot of different things. We do anything from murals to custom art, portraits. We do live art services at events, so we do chalk art on the sidewalk or for signs. For weddings, we do caricatures at events and corporate events. We have a service called live event painting, where we paint the wedding or the ceremony live in real time on a canvas. So we got a lot of different things. When you came in and sat down, I placed some of our cards, so you can check out our website. It's got a lot of photos and some videos, so you can get a lot of information about us from that. Yes. So this is something that we created in charcoal, just kind of as an aside for this. And so basically we took a photo and then we just kind of like drew it in charcoal of all you guys. My lovely assistant, can we give him a big hand? So anyway, that's kind of what we do. You can check out our website, but I kind of want to tell you more about our story. Because I think that is the thing that really matters, and that's the thing that really sets businesses apart. So I started this company about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, when I was working here, actually. That's actually me 2 years ago. Actually, it's not. But I did like to make drinks, and it was fun, and I enjoyed it. But what I really liked to do was this, which was my job at the store, is I got to do the daily offerings board. And I did that every week. And every week, I got to draw whatever I wanted as long as I made it an advertisement for coffee. So I tried to get creative. I had this Optimus Prime up here, which is advertising Komodo Dragon Blend and his engine so that he can defeat Decepticons. Also, we have Superman here, which I tried to make a parallel between the efforts in third world countries that Starbucks does, and how Superman is a force for good, yada, yada, yada. Bob Dylan, limes they are changing. I just tried to find different ways to incorporate the things that I liked into what they wanted, which was really marketing, it was visual marketing. It was really, really fun for me. So one day, someone came in, because customers started coming out of their way. We're a cafe store, meaning we don't have a drive-thru, so customers started coming out of their way to say, oh man, take pictures of whatever was on the board, because it was so not corporate approved. So I kind of had this moment. One day somebody came up to me and was like, hey, why don't you paint murals or do something with art instead of working here? And so I kind of had this moment of epiphany where I was like, I like the sound of that. I'm going to do something different with my life. So I quit. I told my boss, hey, I'm quitting, I'm starting this art company. And he was like, okay, well, I'll keep you in the computer. Thank you. And that's pretty much what I did. And didn't really know anything about entrepreneurship in the professional sense, but that didn't really stop me from trying. I think naivety is a huge asset sometimes. So basically just set out. I'll tell you one quick story. I don't know how much time I have left. We're good? So I thought about what do I like to see? What are things that make an impression on me? And I use that as a thing of hopefully what other people would think. And I know that whenever I'm looking at a new company or I'm looking at a product, I care firstly about what other people are saying. Whenever I buy anything on Amazon, and I am a huge Amazon Prime member, but I'm always ordering stuff. But I always check the customer reviews first. I just read through probably about 10 or 12 every single time, just to get kind of what people are saying. And sometimes I don't even read the product description. So I knew, okay, if I'm going to get a company out there, I need to have people thinking positively about me. But that generally comes after I've like done something positive for them, and I haven't done anything yet. So I was trying to figure out how to bridge that gap. So I could point to something and be like, hey, look, like they saw us and they liked us. So I had an idea. I looked at all these services that I had the ability to offer. And by this point, I was doing art because I'm an artist myself. But I also brought on some of my friends who are artists. I was like, hey, I'm doing this thing. You should do it with me. And I'll pay you. And they're like, all right. And so it's a few of us at that time. And so I thought, well, we can do caricatures. Caricatures are really inexpensive and they're kind of cool. So I started going around to businesses that had a really positive reputation. And the first thing that I ordered was this really nice polo, which was a different logo at this time because we rebranded ourselves. But it was a polo with some business cards, and I put on some cologne, and I thought, I'm ready to go. So I went into these businesses, and I'd be like, how are you doing? My name's Scott. I'm with Colorpop Art and Design, blah, blah. We're doing this and that. Anyway, we so appreciate your business in town and what you're doing for the community, and we just want to show our thank you for that by offering you a free caricature. And they're kind of like, okay. And I'm like, awesome. I can take a photo right now, or we can send me one in an email. And anyway, they would send their photo, we would do a caricature of them, and I would hand deliver it back to them. I would bring it back to them and I would say, here is your caricature, do you like it? And of course, they love it. It's fun, and we do really flattering caricatures, and people like our caricatures. So they were like, great, we love it. I'm like, awesome. Would you mind, just because it helps us to get better, as a company, to know kind of what people are thinking, would you mind shooting us an email? Just kind of what you liked about it, what you appreciated about it. And they're kind of like, yeah, sure, of course, thank you for the caricature. I'm like, of course. Everyone's happy right now. This is great. And they would send the email, and it was perfect because then I would take those emails and I would put them in a testimonials form that was, and this is important, I didn't want to do a thing where it was like Joe and Sally from Broken Arrow said we're awesome. That potentially could be suspect. But I wanted something that people could, if they would want to, they could trace it back, and they could go into this place. They could go into Vincent Anthony Jewelers and talk to the owner, Lonnie, and be like, hey, I saw something on this website that they did a piece of art for you. Were they good? Oh yeah, Scott was great. He hand delivered it. Da 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 da. So it was all real, and it was a great way to get my foot in the door with local businesses and to establish some kind of track record early on without a lot of assets or resources. So since then, we've really grown. We've got about 12 artists that work for us. This is a write-up that was done about my company in Tulsa People. This is me with the mayor at a Greenleaf Gala where we were asked to do a live event painting. And there's just a little thank you note, and we get those a lot of times. So we basically, we've grown a lot since then. We have gotten into logo design, and we illustrated a children's book for Shriners Hospitals, and just done a lot of really, really cool things, and we're always expanding. And I'll kind of close with this because I think I'm running low on time. But I will say that I learned early on that people like to hear the word yes more than they like to hear the word no. So whenever anybody asked me, hey, do you do that? I would always say yes. And then between that word and the date of the project, I would make sure that we were well equipped, and we always were, and it always worked out, and I think that really helped us to get a lot of exposure early on. So thank you so much for listening to my story, and I love to take your questions.
All right, so we'll start out with questions for Scott. Don't be shy. I'm going to start up here.
Okay, so the first presenter kind of touched on this a little bit, but drawing is a little bit different than the welding and the metal because of materials. But pricing, how do you figure out what a sketch or a drawing is, one, worth to the person that you want to sell it to, and two, how do you figure out I have to make X amount of dollars to keep this business open from week to week?
Right. Well, to the first question, basically how we figure it out, it's kind of similar to Garden Diva in the sense that we factor in about how long it takes us to do something. Some things are really awesome, but they just don't take us that long to do because whoever is doing that piece has done it so many times. that it just doesn't take us that long. So those prices are generally lower, but it's more about the time, and then there's a lot of pre-work. So this was not a lot of pre-work in the sense that it was free, so I just did what I wanted to do. But if this was a paying client, there would be a sketch, there would be revisions, there would be go back and forth, there would be some pre-work, and that's all factored into the price as well, as far as how much time is being in. But that's kind of the model that we use, basically the price. And what was your second question again?
I think you just opened it. Think about it later. All right, another question up here.
Oh, how do you figure out how much from week to week? Like, what does it take?
Right, that's great. I just try to do as much as possible, pretty much. I know kind of about how much I have to make per month to make even, and so I know the margins that we have on different services that are profit. So I pretty much try to get so many of those services a month. Because most of the money that we make isn't off stuff like this. Most of it is off a lot of the live art services that we do for weddings and special events. So I try to do so many of those a month, and that kind of gives me some wiggle room for more fun stuff.
Question up here.
What's the biggest project you guys have taken on so far?
Biggest project? Well, I'll tell you two. The biggest project, and then also the biggest / scariest project. So the biggest project we've done to date was we illustrated the children's book for the Shriners Hospital. When they called me up, I was like, yes, we can do that. Hold on one moment, please. But that was the biggest project, biggest client we've ever done so far. We worked a bunch with them to get the revisions. We illustrated this entire story of this bear who is kind of like, his name is Fezzy Bear, he has a fez hat. And that was the biggest project for the biggest client. But we also did a project early on, which was really kind of scary. And again, it goes back to the yes kind of thing, is we got called after we had been in business for about 3 months. And it was a factory that was moving from South Carolina, which is actually my home state, to Tulsa. And they wanted to paint a huge mural in their warehouse of their 2 company logos and then a huge world map. I mean, like 100 feet high and 100 feet wide, like really, really big on their huge wall. And they wanted all their factory locations like denoted on the map. And he goes, "Can you do that?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And he's like, "Great." And I said, "I'll have an estimate in a few days." And then I was like, but it all came together, and we did that mural, and it turned out fantastic. And we had some kind of learning experiences along the way, but that client was very, very happy. And that mural is obviously still up there, and turned out great. But that really taught me a lesson of like, you just have to just like do it. You know, you just have to like get out there and do it, and trust yourself, and be confident in your ability either to be able to do it or to problem solve a way to do it. I think is really important. So that was probably the biggest, scariest job.
Okay, another question up front here.
So today we've kind of seen the difference between, for lack of a better term, a proactive approach to art and a reactive approach to art. Whereas the Garden Diva has a studio you can go into and maybe select your pieces that she's already been proactively creating, so you can go select. And your story seems more of a reactive type of art where people come to you and ask for art. Is that something you're looking at changing? And what is your philosophy about, do you want to transition to a more proactive type of art as opposed to reactive?
Not really, and the reason why, now ultimately my dream is to at some point have a brick and mortar store in which I can display the art of my artists, kind of like a gallery, except I would take no commission. Because they're all artists in their own right, aside from what they do for Colorpop, and I want to provide a forum for that. But as far as creating pieces in advance, I have found that for my business model, it doesn't work as well for me, because what we are selling isn't art. It is the feeling that you get from really liking something a lot. And so basically, we're selling something that is invisible at that point. But what I really like to do is help people to try to visualize and to almost to see that before it becomes a reality, and then to know that they can work with us. I mean, it's kind of fun for the client to be able to design something with us, and so be able to do all the fun stuff of like suggesting things, but not have to like figure out if they work or do them. That's all on us. And so it's a partnership, and we found that clients really, really like that, and so for us, that really works best for us.
Okay, another question up here. Do you have a price schedule on your website or something that we can look at?
No, we don't have a price schedule. You mean like a pricing list?
Yeah, caricatures and things like
Yeah.
that.
Oh well. Okay. So we're basically divided into two categories of work. Okay. So we have what I call prepackaged services, which are the caricatures, which are what I mean by that is there's no design element in that. It's not like there's nothing that has to be figured out. And all those are set price, and they are on the website. The design stuff isn't, because everything is custom and it depends on a ton of factors, and so that a lot of stuff comes out in the design console.
Okay. And sorry. I was wondering if you could give us advice, like things that you guys did well that you're trying to reduplicate, and then maybe things that didn't go so well and what you learned from those mistakes.
Okay. Well, the things we did well, I think, are just getting out there. You know, like what Garden Deva was saying, you don't know what you can do until you have to fly or fall. And I really believe that that's true. And so I think that things we did well are getting out there, getting in front of people, making connections, not being afraid to introduce yourself, and then, and my friends kind of make fun of me about this all the time, but I love people. I mean, like, I love engaging with humans. And so I love to talk to the waitress and the checkout person, and I like to banter. I love to banter. And so just getting out and talking to people and establishing that connection, you never know what's going to come out of that. So that's one thing that I think we did well. My friend says, you act like everyone's your best friend. Like you go into that assuming that you guys are best friends. I'm like, I guess I do. And the things I think we could have done a little bit better is one thing that I'm working on now, because we're starting to grow and grow and grow. We're getting these bigger projects and these bigger clients, is kind of tightening up the infrastructure a little bit. And also trying to get some systems in place that are better equipped to handle the administrative flow so that it's not all rolling around in my head, because incidentally I've got other things that are in there as well, and sometimes stuff gets mixed up. So working on some flow and some administrative, you want to grow and you want to get out there and test your concept, and that's exciting, and that's what we did. We got out there, and then all of a sudden we have all this stuff coming in, and now I'm like, well, to make sure the stuff that's under us is able to withstand this. And so far it has, but I want to make sure it stays that way, and that's one thing that I think is important that we could have done better earlier.
Okay, question center here.
You said the two biggest projects, it sounded like they're out of state, the South Carolina company and then the Shriners Hospital.
Well, no, they instant, because they moved to Tulsa.
Right. So how did you get hooked up with those two? How did they come about?
Okay, so that's what I was going to tell you about talking to people. So basically, I had made a friendship with this lunch lady, basically, at Union Schools, and the guy's wife, who was like the head of that company, that factory, his wife worked at Union Schools in the lunchroom too, and he had mentioned to her that they were looking for someone to paint a mural, so she mentioned at work, and then my friend was like, hey, you should check out my friend Scott, and that's how that happened. And so that was great. Also, I always have business cards, always, cardinal sin, always have them. And then the other job was through a mutual friend of mine who just knew me, and he was doing a video for them, and he had suggested us. That's what it's. We don't do any traditional marketing. I mean, in the sense of like the Tulsa People thing was free. It was a free write-up, which is great. I found that phone calls and conversations are always free, and a lot of times they're far more impacting than paid advertising. especially if you really make a positive impression with somebody and you establish rapport, it really sticks in their minds. So that's kind of our approach. And I actually train my guys too. I don't hire only on artistic ability. I mean, that's actually like probably 50 to, I would say like 40%, and the other 60% is you have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able to answer questions. You have to be able to not make it weird. You have to be able to, you know what I mean? Like I want everybody, all my artists when they're at events, especially my live artists that are going out and talking to people, it's very important that they can do that because that is our company. This is something that we do, but we are an experience in the sense that we want people to really have a positive experience with us on every level. So, yeah. So that's how that came about.
Question over here.
Hi, my name is Paul. I'm a TU student, measuring electrical engineering.
Okay.
I'm sorry for my English is not the best one.
I got you, man. I can understand you. Go ahead.
Yes, my first question is, who are your main customer from what segment of society? They are like organization, individual people. And the second question, are they the customer that you had in mind when you had this idea
when I first started
to start a business? And if they're not, what do you have to do? What do you do to target this population? Do you have to change your products or anything like that?
Okay.
And the last question, if you had to run into a case that you had a customer who asked you something totally way off track from what you had in mind or what to do in your business.
Repeat that last part.
So have you had a customer, somebody who
asked something completely
off track from whatever you had in mind or?
Yes, and I said yes to it and we did it. Okay, so to answer your first question, who is kind of, if I understood you correctly, who is our main client? What kind of person? That's kind of a hard question to answer, which only because in truth it really is, because we're all over the map. We have anywhere from residences, moms and grandmothers who want nursery murals or murals in their home, to again, like we saw the business, to brides who want wedding services, to companies who want to design a logo for them, to, authors that want children's books. It's all over the map. And so we're actually, and this is just kind of a side note, we're actually in the process of starting a smaller division of Colorpop called Inklings, that's going to focus on literary illustration. We've been getting a lot of literary illustration clients, so we want to kind of do that. And so, anyway, kind of hard to answer that question. As far as when I started, what client was I looking for? I just really didn't know. I just wanted to try to figure out a way to make money with this. So I just kind of did everything I could. At first we started out more as a mural company because I thought, well, that's great, like I'll do murals. But, as any entrepreneur knows, you start out with one idea and then you see what sticks. You just throw everything at the wall and you see what sticks. And then whatever sticks that is in the form of money, you keep doing that thing. And so basically, yeah, but now our primary clients a lot of times are brides. We do a lot of stuff in the wedding industry. That's mostly primarily what we do, and then special events. Like we're doing face painting at the Summit Club here in 2 days for their thing they have going on, the Halloween thing, which is something that, again, the Yes thing is what opened up. Do you do face painting? I'm like, yeah, I can do face painting. It's face painting. Same thing as illustrating, just on a cheek instead of a piece of paper. So we're doing that. So so those are our clients. And then as far as somebody asking me something wild, pretty much different stuff has come along that's artistically linked, but it's not something that we expressly offered at that time. But because the talent pool in our company is so rich in so many different things, because creativity can be funneled in so many different directions, it's really opened up a door for a lot of different things that we can do and do really well because of that.
Okay, so our last question, what can we as a community do for you and for Colorpop?
Basically, what you guys could do is, I really believe that Tulsa is really, it's already, and then it's further becoming a hub for art, artistic appreciation, for entrepreneurs, for so many things that are just really, really cool. And I would just ask that in your circles that you continue to push that you continue to be a part of that you continue to do that, because that's really what I want to see happen. I mean, my dream is for art, local art, to be done by local artists, to be in more homes than the stuff from Gordman's and Hobby Lobby and stuff like that. Because I just think that stuff is great and it just has more value. And so what you guys can do, aside from obviously to go to our website, check out our stuff, and tell your friends and all that stuff that goes without saying, just really support the arts. Support the arts in Tulsa. Be at events. Make your voice heard. You know what I mean? Vote for the things that matter. And really help to be a part of the shift that is continuing to happen in Tulsa to make it a really cool art hub in the Midwest.
All right, thanks, Scott. Let's give it up for Colorpop. All right, so we had two awesome companies present today. It's really exciting to see how the arts and entrepreneurship really blend, and it's really exciting. So, like everyone said, it's our birthday. We've been doing this for a year. I was lucky enough to go the very first week of 1 Million Cups, so, and I haven't gone out of business yet, so I guess it helped. So it's just a really exciting community. It's not just these presentations, it's the conversations that happen afterwards, and 3 days later, and 3 months later. So I'd encourage you to hang out, introduce yourself to somebody new, meet somebody. There's a lot of really cool things happening here in Tulsa. We've had over 100 companies present this year, so that's really exciting. Tim's really excited about that. So we need 100 more. So if you have an idea, or if you're wanting to start a company, or if you know somebody, let us know. We definitely want them to present and see all the cool things that are happening, because there's just no end to the creativity that's going on. So thanks for being here. We'll be here next week, 9 o'clock. Yeah, thanks for hanging out. Get some cupcakes in the back. And more coffee.